Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guest on this next interview. Now, after years of anticipation, Poland's national electric vehicle dream is shifting back into gear. ElectroMobility Poland has officially submitted its application for major funding from the National Recovery Plan, hoping to jumpstart production of the country's first homegrown EV brand, Isera, with a proposed EV hub poised to transform the automotive sector. Joining us today on TVP World to explain the future of this bold initiative is Tomasz Kędzierski, CEO of ElectroMobility Poland, a leader steering Poland's electric mobility ambitions with a vision of long-term industrial transformation. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Hello.
So what sparked this vision behind ElectroMobility Poland, and why is it now the right moment to launch this new ambitious project?
I think that electromobility project has developed significantly within last years. What was at the very beginning supposed to be an electric national project built in-house, all done in-house, transformed between 2018 and 2023 more towards a collaborative approach with partners with access to technology. And now it's a fully fledged transformation because we are planning to build an industrial hub in the Silesian region in Jaworzno city, where we will be able to cooperate on a joint venture basis with a potential partner from the automotive sector. So it's more like an M&A transaction right now rather than building everything from scratch in an organic kind of way.
Right. Do you see any gaps in the EU market right now that Poland can fulfill, and what does Isera bring up to the table that can make it more competitive compared to other existing European brands?
I think what we observe currently in the European market is that there is like a big flow of Chinese players into the market. And they are gaining more and more market share. So if you look into companies like BYD, Chery, GD, they are getting more and more. So in some countries it's close to double-digit market share. So they are expanding really fast. Yes. In the past, when the original idea behind the electric vehicle was launched, we were talking about an empty market, we might say. Yes. So right now it's a more developed market. It's a mature market in some places even, when we talk electric vehicles, and we have a lot of new players coming into. Yes. So what we need to do, we actually want to benefit from this movement of Chinese players into the European landscape.
All right. Now, you're also looking to get the funding from the National Recovery Plan for an amount of about €1 billion. How important is that going to be for the project going forward?
I think it's it's quite fundamental. Yes, it's a backbone of this project. So we cannot make such big projects without funding. Usually, as I said in previous interviews, so such projects usually cost between up to 3 billion euros. Yes, the company received something, and there was like a big gap of nearly 2 years of getting additional funding. Now we are able to make the application for the RRF funding. So it's like a completely different situation right now because we are able currently to start thinking seriously about this project and implementing it.
Do you think if the funding isn't approved, this will kind of drag the timeline a little bit further and perhaps make it lose a bit of that competitive edge when it comes to, like you mentioned, a lot of these Chinese vehicles?
I think what we think internally about this Chinese revolution, this excellent technology, is actually a kind of a new opportunity for us rather than a threat. Mm-hmm. When you look into what EU is doing, we are protecting the market with additional tariffs for cars, for electric cars. There are discussions about hybrid cars, etc., etc. So there is this kind of awareness that Chinese players, they are having a lot of competitive advantages. What we want to do is we want to make it more European project. So we still want to work with the Chinese player, but we would like to create this industrial hub so that we will be able to, to build it in-house, to skip tariffs, to be able simply to put the cars in cooperation with Chinese players to the European market. And this is very similar to what China did 30 years ago. And for market access, for access to clients, for access to funding, for access to government support, they were able to attract a lot of players to the market. And based on this kind of a JV approach, they were able to simply build their economy around it. Yeah, so that's what we want. We want to a little bit reverse it, and it's also, when we discuss with EU officials, it's also in line with the EU policy. Yes, to somehow to make it a European know-how rather than purely, Chinese players making sales to Europe.
Right, so it does seem like EMP is going to be working more collaborative with the Chinese producer as well. And like you mentioned as well, it's very important to have a European know-how. So how do we ensure a cooperation with the Chinese side and also still guaranteeing some sort of technological sovereignty within the Polish brand in and of itself?
I think it's super difficult to discuss technological sovereignty, yes, in the modern world. So even if we look into China and how much of the rare earth elements they control. So, but it's not only about China. So everyone is dependent on somebody. Yes? So this is the result of the globalization, I think. But let's not think about it as a sovereignty. But we would like to have a kind of an independence which would help us to build a kind of a competitive edge for our endeavor, and which would help us to grow in the future. So this will be like a 15-20 years plan rather than a, speculation of 2 years doing something, building a factory, somebody will benefit from it. We don't want it. We want to facilitate a long-term project, a long-term strategy. And when you look into China, so I think it's super important to understand this is not, the Rome has not been built in one day. So when you look into China, so it takes some time, to build the manufacturing footprint, to build an R&D footprint, to develop the supply chain around it, etc., etc. So usually this journey takes 10-15 years rather than only building the factory itself. So that's the kind of a strategy. We are looking more into 10-year, 15-year horizon together with our partners, how to develop this. Yes, and we would like to have as much as possible built here in Poland and developed here in Poland.
Right, so like you mentioned, this is something that you're looking for more long-term instead of like kind of an immediate payback. Now, in the long run, what role do you see Israel and the EMP hub playing in reshaping Poland's economic landscape? Why is it important for Poland, and how is that going to put Central Eastern Europe on the map?
When you look into automotive sector, for most of the players around Europe and even globally, if you look into China, it's like a backbone of the Chinese strategy, economical strategy, the automotive industry. So it's very similar in Europe, yes. So Germany, France, all these countries, they are ultra automotive dependent, and automotive is responsible for usually up to 10% of the market share of total GDP. Yeah? So when you look into this from this perspective, it's always a strategic sector. I always mention that it's 10% in GDP, but it's also 30% in R&D expenses. Yes, so it's ultra important to be active in this landscape. We are tier 2, tier 3 producers, so we are doing mainly the supply chain for other supply chain players, and they are selling it to OEMs then, and we would like to be simply higher in this ladder and start to develop on ourselves.
Right. So, what makes this project like kind of new, kind of industrial policy? How does it compare to previously state-backed initiatives?
I think when we look into when you discuss with the state, so the state would like to be like a seed funder for this endeavor. Yes, so the scale of this investment is relatively big. Yes, so we are talking about billions of euros actually. So it's really hard to find somebody, a private entrepreneur in Poland, to build such endeavor on his own, or collect such money from the stock exchange. Yes, so we are thinking about state acting as an active player, but more it is in this kind of a joint venture setup, collaboration with a renowned player who will give it like a market push also. So and this kind of support. So that's the kind of the policy that we would like to push. It's also worth mentioning that when we talk about the factory itself, it's accounting for what are our plans. It's 5,000 people in the factory in Jaworzno. Yeah? It's but when you look into multipliers, if we locate 80% of the supply chain in Poland or near the factory, we will have, and having a Europeanization rate of 80%, we are creating 20,000-30,000 jobs. Yes, so the multiplier is relatively high. So you are talking about something that can really have a strong influence on the Silesian region. When I visit the site there, people are talking about Opel investment in Gliwice, and they are saying that it has changed completely the landscape of the Silesian region. So that's what we would like to bring to Silesia also with this specific project.
Right, so would you say that this perhaps will be able to inject new energy into the economic sector within the town of Jaworzno or the broader Silesian region as well?
Exactly, because when you look into what is happening in the automotive sector, which is, by the way, Silesian region is strongly coal mining dependent. Yes, it's also, so it has a strong link to the energy transformation. At the same time, there are a lot of automotive suppliers. So this was in the past an automotive hub for Gliwice plant, for Tychy plant, and most of the plants currently, automotive plants in Poland, they are decreasing the production. Yes, so when you look into time horizon of last few years, you see that the output of the production of cars, passenger cars in Poland dropped by 60–70%. Yes, so it has a huge impact on the suppliers in this region. Yes, so this Silesian region is really affected, strongly affected by it, and we see this kind of an opportunity. This Chinese revolution of electric vehicles, of plug-in hybrids, our ability to fund the journey, to support the journey of this collaboration, joint venture kind of collaboration, that this would be like a new stimulus to the market, and it would help simply the region to rebuild itself. But we are also looking at it not from the missionary perspective. We are looking into the numbers, yes? So we are looking around rates of return from this investment, and we are discussing it with our partners. So it's clearly visible that this is a missionary kind of project, but at the same time, must be business results behind it. Right. So this is an investment.
It's very well strategized as well. Thank you so much for your input and insight. I really appreciate it, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.